So this is Charlie. Let's take a moment to think a little tiny bit about using Jasmine and Karma when we don't use require. So I'm going to show it to you twice. The first time I'm going to show it to you where we're going to pollute the global namespace. The second time we'll show how to do a little global abatement to avoid that. The purpose here, the reason we're going to do it that way is that I just one time don't want to have to worry about the global namespace, just so you get the very basics of how this is put together. We're using grunt. We're bringing in JSHint to make sure our code is clean. We're bringing in Karma. We're bringing in Jasmine. We're bringing in Phantom.js, and we use our spec reporter so we get the more detailed view of our results. Okay. In karma.conf, we're starting with the base path. We're using Jasmine. We're not using require.js this time as we did in the previous video. And we're pulling in all of our JavaScript files. So all of the files in source and all of the files in spec. We're just pulling them all in. The only other thing that's interesting is we're using single run true because right now we shouldn't need to modify our code very much. You can see down here that we're bringing in Jasmine, our spec reporter, and Phantom.js, and that's the whole story there. So we've got some very simple objects, one of which here returns get 8, and returns the number 8. The number here returns get 7, and you can see this is all placed inside an object, and this is going to end up in the global namespace since we're doing nothing. We don't have require.js. That's the purpose of require.js. One of the major purposes of require.js is to get us out of the global namespace. We're in it right now. We're not creating any modules to speak of. We're just pushing everything into the global namespace. In the number module, we are doing much the same thing. We're coming through here and well, let's not talk about the module yet. Let's go look at the number function. Here we're creating two functions, one that get1 that returns 1, and here's get2 that returns 2. And then here, finally, we're creating a module. We'll get just halfway towards doing something about the global namespace. Here we're going to create one module using the module pattern here. We'll define a constructor. We'll use the prototype to add methods to the constructor, and then we'll return that constructor. And down here, we actually make sure that the module does in fact return our constructor. And we wrap the whole thing in parentheses so that we'll understand that we're implementing the module pattern to begin with. Our simple test is very simple. It just proves that true is true just to see if our tests are working. The number test has 3, one for testing our number suite, one for testing, and it calls get number, get 8, get 7. Then here's our Elvenware function suite, which calls get 1, get 2. And then here's the module suite, which creates a new instance of the number module. We have to call new on it, and we specified that by using capital letters here for the object. And then we create an instance of it, declare it globally inside of our suite here, subsuite, and then we call get3 and get4. The other thing in get5, the interesting thing about get5 is that we just kind of use it to prove that our constructor is being called by having an internal variable, private variable up here, and then initializing it in the constructor and returning that variable here. The only point here is just to emphasize the fact that our constructor is being called. And then here we're showing that in the global namespace, and the global namespace in a browser is called window, and the number module is defined, get2 is defined, and this is what we don't like about it, is that all these things we're putting 1, 2, 3, 4 different things into the global namespace, which is not good. Then we want to see if all that works, and to do it, we type grunt test, and it first runs JSHint to prove that everything works and to prove that everything's clean, that all our code is clean, and then it calls all of our various test suites. I guess I should show you the grunt file since we're doing that. The grunt file hasn't changed really much at all here since our previous video. We're bringing in karma.conf.js as our config file in our karma task, which is called karma. Then we're defining JS hint. We're going out, excluding the node modules, and we're defining some variables to show that we're working with Jasmine. Then we load karma, we load JS hint, and we create a task here. Okay. So let's switch over to our other one. And in this one, we have the same package. We're loading all the same packages. And our grunt file looks exactly the same as it did in the previous example. The place where we see some differences here is that we can see it in two places. Here there's a file called elf that wasn't there before. And in our files, even though we're still loading everything in JS, we're making sure that elf gets loaded first because it's part of the spec for Karma that whatever you list in these files, the first one will get loaded first. And why don't we, since we were doing this, we'll just set it to true for single run here. And we're using, as we did last time, we're using Phantom.js. So in elf, all we do is create a single object. Our goal here is not to get rid of totally all global variables, but to get us down to just one. And then in our number object, we make getNumber be part of that one object that we've created. And then in getNumber function, we make sure that the get1 method and get2 are also part of our single global object, elf. And then in the number module, we do yet again that same thing. We make sure that the number module is part of elf. So everything's part of elf now. And then in our number tests, we make sure that all of these guys are not part of the global variable. I guess we should add maybe, well, let's go ahead and prove that all that works. So we'll switch over here to the Jasmine require 2, and we'll call grunt test. And as you can see, they're all coming back. This time we're proving that they're not in the global namespace as compared to over here where we're proving they were in the global namespace. Okay, so we were going to add one more method in here, and we were going to confirm that elf is in the global namespace, because elf we are putting in the global namespace. It's not that we're cleaning it up altogether, it's just that we're putting only one thing in the global namespace in this particular case. And we run our tests again, and it confirms that elf is in the global namespace. So everything's coming back. Now we have lucky 13 number of tests in here. That's all I wanted to say. Hope you guys are having a good day. Basic structure for working on this. I'll push these guys up to JS objects, so you'll have them. Jasmine no require 02 and Jasmine no require 01. Just basic examples of how to put together Jasmine Karma tests that do not use require JS. Thank you now. Bye.